Welcome to the 90s. The decade that gave us the Tamagotchi, Blockbuster, gangster rap, Bill Clinton's and Monica Lewinsky's PJs. But who cares about those? The 90s is where will be born the successor of one of the most iconic supercars ever made. The successor of the F40. This will be the car to commemorate 50 years of Ferrari existence. It will be named, of course, the Ferrari F50. And it had the impossible mission of filling the shoes of the sex symbol of the 80s. Back in the 1980s, Ferrari wanted to celebrate 40 years since it was born. Group B ruled the world. Rally Monte Carlo had bigger attendance than even the Grand Prix of Monaco. So Ferrari's 40th birthday cake was the F40, a Group B inspired monster for the road. At his heart, a twin-turbo V8 powerhouse, just like the Rally Beasts. What an absolute missile! But by the 1990s, times had moved on. Group B was banned, and F1's popularity was hitting an all-time high.
When I think of Prost, I've always felt that
With the titanic rivalry between Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost. So Ferrari, being heavily invested in F1 of course, had something special in their sleeves for the new supercar. The mad Italians at Maranello had a bold idea of taking the 65-degree V12 from Alain Prost's F1 car. For the nerds, it's the Tipo 130A. They bore out from 3.5 to 4.7 liters and bolted directly into a carbon chassis monocoque, just like the red racing car. The engine was designed as a stressed member of the whole construction. And the rear suspension hangs out of the back of the gearbox, again, just like the F1 car. Just pure mechanical pornography. Not even the succeeding Enzo was this hardcore. All good, but now the car needs a dress. Ferrari commissioned the design, of course, to the very best, Pininfarina, in Turin. Pietro Camardella and Lorenzo Ramaciotti were in a monumental task of designing the new prancing horse supercar. Clearly it was heavily inspired by the F40, but gone went the straight lines of the 80s, and in came the more rounded and modern lines of the 90s. The Formula 1 heritage is pretty clear, with a triangular nose in front of the bonnet and raised arches. It was criticized as being ugly back then. But can you really say that out loud today? It's absolutely gorgeous, and so way ahead of its time. The F50 is the definition of Italian exotica. Bright red, wind in your hair, and a great noise from the V12 naturally aspirated symphony. The swooping rear end stretches almost 2 meters across, with a wing arching out and over to form one of the most recognizable and unique design features of any car. Lovely 18-inch center-lock wheels made by Speedline emulated the then trademark Ferrari 5-spoke look. And how much do we miss a fantastic dished rear wheel like this? This uber elegant shape will make most people think back to a time when supercar design was simpler, more flowing, less cluttered than most exotics have today. If any car had a lingerie, the F50 will be it. But gets equally special behind the exterior sexiness. The real theater hides under the massive one-piece rear cowl. This is like an art that we've pretty much lost nowadays. Only special boutique brands like Pagani or Koenigsegg understand that what's under the dress, the engine, the mechanical components, should be as beautiful to the eye as they are for the machine's performance. These days, most supercars treat us to a peak of an intake plenum or a fancy engine shroud. But most components are covered over or totally hidden from view, mostly afraid of showing their overcomplicated miles of electronics and wiring. With the F50, you see it all. The naturally aspirated Formula 1 V12 sitting low in the center of the chassis as a stressed member. Gearbox proudly pointing backwards where it shoots a pair of drive shafts that spin, the wheels and their 335 section rubber. Beautiful exposed suspension and how it actuates the inboard dampers through push rods. The F50 then was hot. Every video game wanted to have it. You will see, F50 has roadsters and coupes, but in fact, every F50 is a roadster and a coupe. It's just a question of doing a couple of bolts at a specialized workshop. But don't be fooled by the looks. Behind the ultra smooth and sexy Pininfarina lines and sculpture-like mechanics lies an absolute beast to drive that holds no prisoners. No power steering, no ABS, no power brakes, no traction control, and a 6-speed gated shifter connected to a race-bred V12 under your right foot. The F50 is only as good as you are. Cabin is as Spartan as you like. Space, very cramped. Accessibility, very difficult because of small door openings and door sills that were absurdly wide and high. No stereo, no airbag, no aircon, your comfort features are a couple of sun visors. There's not even a dumb light. To see inside at night, there's a pocket flashlight. Well, at least it came with its own shoes.
Over 1987, carnage on Wall Street, catastrophe here.
This has been a horrific morning.
It sowed the seeds for Australia's worst economic crisis since the
Maybe
Great
more than in the
Depression.
racetracks, the F50 had a challenge to overcome. 1995 was not a good year to launch a new supercar. Not only the world was hit by economic recession, but the supercar market was overcrowded by a dozen of new entries, such as McLaren F1,
Price of £540,000 plus tax.
Jaguar XJ220, Bugatti EB110, the Cizeta, Dower, Lister Storm, Yamaha. All these rivals will become a commercial failure, and most even dragged their makers into bankruptcy. But yeah, Ferrari is Ferrari, so they have an overwhelming advantage in fame and client base. However, to ensure sufficient interest in the F50, Ferrari had to set its price at a relatively modest less than $500,000. That was about half the price of a McLaren F1. And limited its production run to 349 cars. For context, more than 1,300 F40s were made. This very limited run would ensure the F50 was always valued, and loyal Ferrari customers were happy about that. And later, history told us that Ferrari's realistic strategy was spot on, as the F50 was the only profitable supercar of its era, despite its low production run. In total, 302 Rosso Corsa colored F50s left the factory, 30 Giallo Fly, 8 Rosso Barchetta, a darker red, 4 Nero, and 4 Argento. For many, the F40 is still the definitive supercar, not the F50. However, no one can deny that its handling was fabulous. The balance, the poise, the grip, the brakes, the huge downforce that made it stable at any speed. Known to have some understeer mid-corner, but then again, Alan Prost liked to have some understeer in his Ferrari F1 cars. The linear power curve and instant throttle response of the V12 engine enable the driver to exploit its speed much easier than the very laggy turbocharged V8 in the F40. And while it might have difficulties beating the F40 in a straight line, give it a racetrack and it can beat the F40 9 out of 10 times. Its handling approached the raced car level and was superior to any other road cars of its time, McLaren F1 included. Nowadays, the F50 is an all-time classic. Straight line performance isn't as important today. It's more about the looks, the sound, the pedigree, and how the machine makes you feel.
Put bluntly, there is no better engine gearbox combination for pure enjoyment than this V12 and that gearbox.
And in that respect, the F50 delivers. So much so that to get one in your hands, you have to shell out close to 5 million. That's about 3 times more than a Ferrari F40. The F50 then is everything you want. V12, manual gearbox, and the roof that comes off. If I had the money, I would buy a Ferrari F50 and live inside a tunnel. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the first video. There's more to come. Please subscribe and like the video if you liked it, of course. See you very soon.